We are in Parashat Vayechi. Baruch Hashem, we're finishing the Chumash this week. And something very interesting happens in this parasha, that Yaakov is about to die. And he gathers all the tribes. And first of all, he wants to tell them when Mashiach is coming. And that we already spoke about it last year. If you were following the Sunday classes, then we spoke about that last year. You can find it online, about the concept that Yaakov wanted to tell them when Mashiach is coming. He made a quick decision not to. But something else happens, and Yaakov blesses the tribes and also rebukes them. Now there's a very interesting thing that happens specifically with two of the tribes, that we can learn something very, very profound from it. Now, if you remember, in the parasha of Vayishlach, there's a whole story that Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov, goes out for a walk, and unfortunately, she finds herself in a bad neighborhood, and a certain individual, Shem, kidnaps her, and rapes her, and he takes her, and he doesn't want to release her. And the result of it, two of the tribes, Shimon and Levi, they get very upset. They go into the city and they destroy the city. Of course, the story was that they came to Shechem's house. He didn't want to give Dinah away. There's different stories. We're not going to get to the story right now. We'll explain it a little bit later. But what happens is that eventually, of course, they wanted to marry her. They said, they tricked them. They said, you have to be circumcised. All the men here has to be circumcised. They go and circumcise themselves. And on the third day, Shimon and Levi come into Shechem with their swords and they kill everybody. Now, this is a short version of what happened in Parashat Vayishlach. We'll talk about it a little bit more as we go. But in this week's parasha, then Yaakov is starting to bless, on his deathbed, he's starting to bless all the Shvatim. And most of them are just getting a blessing. But specifically two tribes, Shimon and Levi, they're getting a piece of Yaakov's mind. He's giving them a Mishe Berach. He opens his mouth in them and he starts giving them his opinion. And he tells them, you disgraced the family. You brought such shame on the family that he tells them, Klei Chamas Mechoroteihem. Your weapon, your tool, or what represents you is a Kli Hamas, is a tool of murder. You went and murdered people. And Yaakov says, this was not justified. This was not a good act. And not only that, you are holding the desire, the te'avah of murder. This is not coming from me. You took it from your uncle, from Esav. This is not coming from me, this character trait. To murder and to kill. There was a story, I don't remember exactly the date, I think it was about 40 years ago. Some terrorists came into Israel, maybe 50 years ago. And they came into Israel and they killed, I think, a woman and two kids. It was a long time ago. I don't remember the story, I remember the reaction. At the time, it was Arik Sharon who was, not in Malot, it was something not in that scale. Nevertheless, I don't remember if Arik Sharon was the chief of staff or just a general. He was a little bit of a hothead, and they went into the village where the terrorists came from, and they just destroyed the whole place. And they killed about 70, 80 people that were innocent. It was a big stink there. How did they able to do such a thing? And came, of course, the question, was this murder justified? That you're going in and you're doing such a big thing. Nevertheless, Shimon and Levi are now accused by Yaakov. You are murderers. You just went in there, you killed everything that moved, you brought shame onto our family, and you are mamash like murderers. And not only that, he's questioning them, where do you get that from? Where do you get this character trait to just grab your swords and go into a city and kill? Now, of course, Yaakov blames. He says, it's not coming from me. You must have taken it from your uncle, from Esav, from my brother, because I don't have any type of desire or character trait in me of killing, of a murderer. Now comes a big question, how can Yaakov call both of them Klei Hamas. Kli is like a weapon, and Hamas is of murder. How can he calls them such a thing? After all, we know that they were all tzaddikim, they were all holy. Not only that, their names of the Shvatim were written on the breastplate of the Kohen. It's called Choshen, and they had each tribe had a stone with a different color, and their names were all written there. And any message that Hashem would want to give, the Choshen would talk. They would present a question, and the letters, because they had all the letters, they would say Shimon, Reuven, Levi, Yehuda, all the names, and the letters would shine, like Lehavdil Elef Avdelot, what they do in a seance, when you have a board and the cup goes on the board. The Choshen was on the plate, the breastplate on the Kohen, and the letters would shine according to the answer. And the names of Levi and Shimon were on the breastplate. How can you call them murderers? How can you call them that they have a desire, a ta'ava of killing? Now, there is a question, first of all, that really Yaakov saw it as murder? Don't forget that you're talking about 22 years past from the time of Yosef. So you're talking here over 30 years from the event. So really was Yaakov thinking that it was murder? And if so, where were you all this time? In Parashat Vayishlach, Yaakov just said that they brought shame to the family, and that's it. So what, it took you 30, 40, 50 years to figure out, and now you're coming and telling them that it's your art is killing? Where were you in Parashat Vayishlach, Yaakov? Now, comes another question, two questions. What was Shimon and Levi thinking when they did such a thing? What would cause these two individuals? I understand they were angry because Shechem took their sister. But what was Shimon and Levi thinking to do such a thing? And what caused Yaakov to get upset at them? This is things that we see now in our parasha. Obviously something caught, thank you so much. Obviously something caught up, and Yaakov got very upset at them. The question here is that how were they able to just kill a bunch of people like that? I understand that Shechem kidnapped her and did something wrong. Okay, finish your business with him. Why the whole town you killing? That was one of the big questions. Okay, I understand you had some open business with Shechem. He kidnapped your sister. He raped her. Okay, so kill him. Why are you killing the entire city? Didn't we learn from Avraham Avinu that said many parashot before that, Hatispe tzadikim rasha? Telling when Avraham Avinu went and argued with Hashem about Sdom, he told Avraham Avinu said, you're going to kill a tzaddik in there because everybody's rashaim. So kill the rashaim. Why you? That's when the argument that Hashem says there's not even one tzaddik there. But didn't they learn from their grandfather? So what if one person messed up? Why are you punishing everybody? Now, the same thing also with Moshe. That Moshe said the same thing. One person with the argument with Korach. One person messed up, you're going to be upset at the entire congregation? האיש אחד יכתב על כל העדה תקצוף. What's I don't understand here. One person messed it up, now you're punishing everybody. So comes of course the question, why would they do such a thing? And more of a bigger question is, how come Yaakov, after so many years, 50 years passed from the event, and now you remember to rebuke them? What happened 50 years? Where were you? 50 years it was okay, and now before you die, that's it. That's your farewell goodbye, by telling them that you have the desire to kill, you are a machine, a weapon of destruction. Where were you, Yaakov, for so long? So obviously when you see such a big question mark and so many questions, obviously there's a big secret hidden here. This is not something that the one can ignore. Obviously there's a big secret in here. We just want to find out, A, what is the secret? And not only that, how is that going to do with me? Because the Torah comes to teach me something. So we know that Yaakov lived in Mitzrayim for 17 years. Last week, Yosef reveals himself. He says, I'm your brother. They bring down Yaakov. They bring 70 people. They all get situated. They land in the land of Goshen. They build houses. They set up yeshivot. They open shuls. They establish them. And Yaakov ends up living in Mitzrayim for 17 years. 17 years that he's there and he's finishing his life. And how is he finishing his life? He starts giving them blessing. He gathers them around the bed and he starts one by one giving them blessing. Now this is already an interesting concept because he starts giving them one by one different blessings. And so he says to Yehuda, you're going to have kings coming out of you. And Issachar, the Talmidei Chachamim, all the rabbis, the Rabbanim, are all going to come out from you, the wisdom, the Chokhmah. And Zvulun, you're going to be rich. And he gives each and every one of them a blessing, which in itself is a very weird concept. Why are you giving each one a different blessing? Just can't you all of them to be rich? Only Zvulun should be rich? And only Yehuda will have kings coming out of him? And only Issachar will have Talmidei Chachamim? What kind of a blessing is that? Are you giving each one a different blessing? I would expect a father to give everybody equal blessings. I mean, that's the right way, no? No. Rather, you're right. First of all, it seems like there's a distinguish here, not a discrimination, aflaya. You get money, you get brain, you get the looks. So, no, you're right. Yaakov didn't give any blessing. Yaakov was just strengthening the advantage that each and every one of them had. This is the exact concept when we go to a tzaddik for a bracha. A tzaddik doesn't give you a blessing. This is the mistake of many people, that a lot of people go to a tzaddik and they ask for a blessing. The tzaddik is not the one who gives the blessing. He just releases the shefa. That's it. It was already there to start with. I already got the blessing. The tzaddik just comes and releases the knot. He unties the knot so the blessing can start flowing in a much more open way. That's the difference. That was what the tzaddik does. That's what Yaakov did. Yaakov just said, no, I'm not giving you a new blessing. I see each and every one of you what's in your mazal, and I'm just going to empower it. That's what he did. And sometimes you see that there's in the time when Yaakov was talking to them, you see that a lot of it was blessing, but some of what he was saying is the opposite of blessing. To read, of course, the parasha. You have to come to the class a little bit prepared, because we don't have the time to start going through every little story in the Torah. But if you would read it, you would see that some of it is very good blessings, and some of them is not. Some of them, it sounds like the complete opposite of the blessing. Yaakov, when he was blessing them, he wanted to empower the good. When he was saying the opposite of the blessing, he wanted to help them to cut off, to uproot the bad attributes, to uproot the bad midah, which in itself is something that I need to acquire and to see that when I see something positive, I have to empower it. Doesn't matter right now where it is. It can be with my wife, it can be with my child, and it can be in another person in my community that is doing something amazing. Instead of, trying to put it down, empower it. This in itself, just that is one message one can take from the parasha. You see a child that is doing something, and you see that they have something positive in them, empower that. We now started here praying every day, Baruch Hashem. We have minyanim now 3 times a day. So my son, my 11-year-old, he comes every day to pray with us. Instead of praying in his class, he asks permission and he's praying with us. He says, I want to pray with my father. I don't want to pray in the school. He comes every day, wakes up early, gets prepared, He prepares everything, he putting the sidurim in back, he stands here, he's very, very involved. In the Kriyat Torah, he helps, and you see something so beautiful. He wants to do it by himself. So, Baruch Hashem, I'm busy. Sometimes all he needs is one little word. So the other day I just told him, I'm very proud how you wake up in the morning, how you're taking this very serious, how you show up. It makes me very happy that you're next to me. All it takes is 2 minutes to say a few encouraging words. And you saw that I saw the next day he was even more. Because it's taking something positive and empowering it and making it grow and make it come out more to the surface. We have to acquire that. You see somebody doing something good, don't go and be jealous or start bad-mouthing, oh, look what he's doing. Go and empower that. Say, wow, he's doing amazing. Kol hakavod, you should do more. Let me help you. This is, what we were talking about before, how people have such a narrow eye. So we have to take something from that. And of course, on the other hand, Yaakov saw the bad character traits. So he says, I need to cut it off. I need to uproot it. So when Yaakov was rebuking, he wasn't trying to necessarily to put them on their spot. He says, let me help you to point out your weak point so you can work on yourself. Now here it becomes a little bit more touchy. Don't go around and start telling every person their weak points. You're not going to have much friends. But if you recognize in somebody something that is negative, find the right way to tell the person, by the way, I have noticed that you're amazing here. You're great here. Unbelievable here. Here, you're just lacking a little bit. I think you should do this and like that. And of course, everything has to be done the right way. But even when something is negative, it needs to be pointed out, of course, in the right way. Not in a way, if you're pointing it out with a finger, then it's not going to be accepted. If you want to help the person really chop off the bad character, the bad midah, that's when it will actually work. If you're coming with an ego and pointing fingers, then the message will not come across. You'll just get resistance and hate. So same thing, Yaakov says, yes, I'm going to tell you where something is negative, but I'm not coming to attack you. I'm not coming to put you on the spot. I'm coming to show you my observation and to help you here. Yaakov wanted to uproot the bad midot, especially here we're talking about Shimon and Levi. We're now the two stars that we're talking about are Shimon and Levi. Now, what was one of the things that that Yaakov told for Shimon and Levi? Achalkem beYaakov ve'afitzam beYisrael. I will divide them beYaakov Yaakov is a definition of the nation. I will separate them, achalkam ve'afitzam beYisrael, and I'm going to spread them around the nation. And we see that he was saying, I have to take your anger. Your anger is very, very dangerous, and I have to spread it all over the place. When you have something concentrated, it's much more powerful. You break it into pieces, then it's much less dangerous. It's like you take a few kids, put them together. Together, they're a big troublemakers. Separate them, put this one over here, so they're not so bad. But we see with everything, take now a lot of sand and put it together with a little bit of water or mud, and becomes it can become hard as a rock. Separate it now, break it into small grains, it's not so powerful. Yaakov says, your anger is very dangerous. I have to break it into pieces and I have to spread it all over the place. But he basically tells them, you're going to be scattered. You're not going to be concentrated. And we saw later that Shimon became the tribe that we used to educate the babies. So he had to go from one house to another house. They didn't have a set place. And the same thing, look at Levi. Levi after that, later on, of course, Kohanim came out of the tribe of Levi. Moshe Rabbeinu. This is a serious tribe. But you see that the Leviim, they don't have and the Kohanim, they don't have possession of the ground, of the land. They're kind of like scattered. They don't own anything. This was what Yaakov says, I have to scatter you around, because together you're very, very dangerous. And you put something too concentrated, that can cause a big problem. Of course, it all comes down to the same question. Why does Yaakov calling them murderers? He actually calls them, you are murdered, you murdered. This is a pretty harsh statement. Now, what really happened in the story? Very long story, but to say it in a short way, like I told you, Dinah got captured by Shechem, and Shimon and Levi didn't like it, especially that he raped her. And they said, no, they contaminated her sister. Of course, so Shechem says, okay, no problem, don't get upset, I will marry her. So they said, no, you can't marry her because you have to be circumcised. If you all circumcise yourself, then we'll let you marry our ladies, our women. So the entire city. Now Shechem was like the governor, the mayor, and his son, the son of this, by the way, was the son of Shechem, Hamor. Exactly how it sounds. Hamor is a donkey, but it's also not a nice word in Hebrew. You want to tell somebody something not nice, you call him a donkey, a Hamor. But nevertheless, so I'm not going to translate the word in English, but you understand by yourself. Excuse me?
Part of a donkey.
Part of a donkey, yeah. The part that everybody has, and we use it when we sit and learn. So, and not our brain. So, then what happens? So they make everybody circumcise themselves, and on the third day, when it's considered the harder day, the hardest of all the days to heal, they go into the city and they just kill everybody. They pull out their swords. You have to understand, Shimon is 15 and Levi is 13, two teenagers. They go in with their swords and they start killing everybody, like samurais. You know, some commentaries, they wonder, how did they do that? It's two kids against a whole city. So what if the men just circumcise themselves? So yeah, the answer is that both were really trained in martial arts. And they're like a ninja, like a samurai going in, and they're able to take a whole city down. That's why last week when Yehuda approached Yosef and he told him, give me back Binyamin, and Yosef says no, Yehuda says, listen, if you have two ways of dealing with it, the nice way or my way, or the highway. Either you give me back my brother, or I'm going to destroy this entire land. And he said to Yosef, my two little brothers, when they were 13 and 15, destroyed the whole city. Think I have a problem destroying your whole country? I will destroy entire Mitzrayim. And Yehuda banged on the floor with his leg, went like that, and the whole land was shaking. So these were two little kids. There is a guy in Yerushalayim that he has a very ancient martial arts system, and he's a lineage of, there were bodyguards of the kings in Yemen, and the whole martial arts is in the shape of letters. And the Hebrew letters, yeah. So all the blocks and the hits, it's all Hebrew letters. It's unbelievable. You can find them online, and he's teaching it, and it's so special. They're all with tzitziot, and they pray before that, and then pray mincha and arvit, and the entire martial arts. And he's saying, yeah, our forefathers were trained martial artists. For Shimon and Levi to go into a city and to kill everybody, this is, in Hollywood they don't even know how to produce it.
What's the man's name?
His name is, I think, it's called Abir. Abir, like a knight. I'll look it up, I'll tell you the name exactly. But or you can just Google Jewish martial art, you'll see it will come up. Nevertheless, Yaakov calls Shimon and Levi murderers. Why? How do you could call your son murderers? Now Yaakov is really blaming them because when they went into the city and they killed everybody, right after that, Yaakov was very upset. At the time, he didn't call them murderers. He just told them, you brought shame on the family by doing such a thing. So Yaakov was upset not about the murder, rather he was upset because they deceived the people in Shechem. Because they didn't come and say, hey guys, let's have war. They said, oh, why don't you circumcise yourself, and you're all going to be circumcised like us, and then we'll give you our women to marry. So you tricked them. You lied to them. Therefore you brought shame on the family. Yaakov didn't condemn them at the time about killing. Rather, he condemned them that they tricked them. Why did you come in a tricky way? Now, what was the answer of the brothers, of Shimon and Levi at the time? We didn't have an option. We came to release Dinah. We got the inside information that she was kidnapped. We went to the house. We were knocking on the door. Give us back our sister. No, we're not giving them. We didn't have an option. And they started attacking us, so we had to kill them all. That was the one explanation what Shimon and Levi answered when Yaakov told him, what are you doing? What are you, out of your mind? They says, listen, we didn't have an option. They didn't let us take Dinah, and they didn't accept our demand, and they were threatening us. So we felt threatened, and we had to kill them all. So this interpretation is not accepted. Why? Because Shimon and Levi planned it. It was a planned thing. It's not that they just came and knocked on the door and one thing led to the other. They actually planned it. It was a plan there, how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it. Let's make them all circumcised. They tricked them. It was a conspiracy. That's what Yaakov was very upset about. Not the fact that they killed, that they tricked. That now our family will have a reputation. We're on Shemet. We hear truth. If something has to be done with justice, there'll be justice. But why are you going and tricking? The fact that you made a trick, it makes us look bad. You know, I always tell my kids, when I educate them, kids are kids, and sometimes they fight, my kids. And one will give the other one a kick, and the other one will give another one a smack, and this will throw something at him. It's not only our kids, by the way, it's all the kids do it. So, and then one of them comes crying to me, but he started. So, and I always tell them the same thing. If one does something to you, if you come to me and you tell me, he did that to me, then he will get in trouble. But the fact that you retaliated, you acted based on your own decision, I'm not going to jump in here. It's your problem. If you won't do anything, he will get in trouble. The fact that you answered back, then I'm sorry to tell you, you deal with it yourself. And same thing here. Yaakov said, who told you to react like that? If they did something wrong, we wouldn't deal with it in the right way. Because after all, there was Yaakov said, we have a law here. And Yaakov said, you write that they had to be brought to justice. There's no question here. We would deal with it in the right way. But because you went and tricked them, because you went and tricked and you lied, then I can't even bring them to justice. I can't even sue them, because they're going to counter back at me and say, no, yeah, but they lied to us. Now the thing is that Yaakov got upset because at the time, even though we didn't have the Torah yet, but the 7 laws of Noach applied at the time. Because the 7 laws of Noach were established before Noach. 6 of them were given before the time of Noach, and the 7th was given to Noach. So these are the 7 laws that apply to all the nations. So even at the time, there wasn't the Torah, but they had the 7 laws of Noach. And all the non-Jews were also obligated in these laws. And one of the laws of Noach is to establish courthouses and to bring justice. This is up until today. Now, they didn't do that. They didn't bring a courthouse, because that should have been dealt in a court. You kidnapped, you're not allowed to do that. You raped, you're not allowed to do that. This was all supposed to be dealt in a court. And you're not taking the matters to your own hands and you start killing people. So Yaakov got upset, not because of the retaliation, the way it was done. And Yaakov was proving them because they tricked them. It wasn't done the right way. Now, the Rambam explains that technically, and not even technically, according to Halacha, the son, the Shechem and the son and everybody there, they deserved to be killed. Because they were all under the rule of Bnei Noach, and a person that steals a human being has to be put down to death. And the Rambam explains, halachically, Shimon and Levi were right. The There wasn't a problem of halacha here. Because according to other halacha, they kidnapped, and the penalty here is death. And they just followed the law. Jew or non-Jew, doesn't matter. The 7 laws of Noach are universal laws for everybody. So Rambam comes to the protection of Shimon and Levi and says, no, they did according to halacha, they were fine. The Ramban contradicts, and he says, no, I disagree with the Rambam, and the reason why they had to be killed is specifically for gezel. For gezel meaning stealing, and for other sins, not for the kidnapping. So there is an argument in halacha if Shimon and Levi did according to the halacha, if they're good, if they have the backing, the support of the Torah or not. But nevertheless, we're still coming back to the same question is in our parasha. Forget about it right now. It doesn't really matter. It's a little bit less irrelevant right now if the halacha will condemn the act or not. And there's different explanations in the halacha that yes, they have the halacha backing them up.
So stealing and kidnapping, what's the difference?
Okay, that's why we're not going into the halacha part in it. I'm just trying to prove the point that Shimon and Levi can come and say, what do you want from us? We acted according to the Torah. We're trying to get to the answer why Yaakov is calling them murderers. That's not sitting well in my mind when I read it. That you fare well to your kids, you're calling them murderers? That's what I'm trying to understand. So on behalf of Shimon and Levi, we're trying to understand were they right or not. Believe it or not, the halacha stands with Shimon and Levi that they were operated according to halacha. The fact if they took it to their hands or not, that's a different thing. Yaakov was upset at them at the time because they did it in a tricky way. Yaakov said, no, we should have established a court, find them guilty, and then put them to death. You went one step forward, and you did it in a tricky way. That's what Yaakov was upset about in Parashat Vayishlach. But I'm right now in Parashat Vayechi. I want to know how is that to do right now, and why Yaakov is calling them murderers before he dies. Now, the explanation here is that in the beginning, Yaakov believed them. When Shimon and Levi came back with blood on their hands, just imagine the scene. 2 teenagers are coming home. Mommy, is there dinner? What's for dinner? Mommy turns around. Oh, what happened? You're full of blood. Nah, I just murdered a whole city. It was no big deal. So just imagine they're both walking in, these 2 teenagers, swords full of blood, hands full of blood, and what happened there? No, we just brought Dinah back home. There was a little bit of an argument there. Don't worry, we squared it out. We're not going to have any problems from them anymore. So, in the beginning, they came and they explained. So, in the beginning, Yaakov believed them. So, he didn't tell them anything. They said, yeah, that's what happened. We went there. We found out that Dinah was captured. We demanded that they release her. They did not listen. We were banging on the door, started a confrontation. They attacked us. We killed them. Okay, Yaakov says, okay, sounds fair to me. Let's have dinner. So, in the beginning, Yaakov believed them, and he let it go. 50 years pass, and now it happens again. Now, don't forget one thing here. 17 years Yaakov lives in Egypt. 22 years Yosef has disappeared. That in itself is already 39 years. 39 years Yaakov doesn't know what happened. The whole 22 years that Yosef was in Mitzrayim, Yaakov thought that Yosef was eaten by an animal. The entire 17 years while he was in Mitzrayim, I told you already, the Midrash explains that Yosef did anything in his power to not be found by himself with Yaakov. So chas v'shalom, Yaakov should not ask Yosef, tell me, what happened that night that you disappeared? Yosef didn't want to say, they actually threw me into a pit and then they sold me. He didn't want to badmouth them. So Yosef avoided Yaakov for 17 years. Every time that there's always going to be people around that chas v'shalom, Yaakov should not come and tell him, son, come and tell me, I missed you for 22 years. What happened? Now, finally, it comes up to the surface. The whole story comes up right before the death. Oh, so Yaakov says, oh, I see now that what you did 50 years ago, that I thought that it's like a one-time thing, and you were just doing what you're supposed to do, it repeated itself 39 years ago. You threw Yosef into the pit. You were looking to kill him. So this is already a habit. This is not a one-time thing. It was Shimon that pushed Yosef into the pit. With the advice, Levi was standing next to him. They wanted to kill him. Yehuda came and says, no. Let's not have blood on our hands. Leave him alone. Yehuda came to the rescue. Shimon and Levi wanted to kill him. Suddenly Yaakov says, it's in your blood. Oh boy. Yeah. It wasn't a mistake with Shechem. It actually, it's in you. You're looking to kill. Now it's a whole different thing. Excuse me? It's a character. You have in you the desire to kill. Now if it happened once, I'll let it go. It happens twice, sorry to tell you, you have a problem. You have to go to KA, Killers Anonymous. You have a problem. You like killing. There's a story about a certain Chassid that his name was Hillel from Parich. When he was born, he was already noticed to be a genius, mamash a genius. He was a young individual, he knew the entire Shas off by heart. Mamash, like a very, very high level individual. And at the time was the period that one of the tzaddikim of the generation, one of the real dominating tzaddikim of the generation was the Baal Tanya. And this Hillel from Parich wanted to meet him because he was this genius. He was a teenager. He wasn't an old man. And he wanted to meet the Baal Tanya. He said, this is a genius, I'm a genius, I want to pick his brain, I want to ask him all my questions. He wanted to meet something like that. So he started traveling around him. And not around him, he was trying to travel to find him. And every time he would reach to a certain town, now it's not like today, you have internet, chick-chack, WhatsApps, everything. There was rumors, he's right now in that city. He would drive to that city, a week journey, he was already gone. Where is he going now? Oh, we heard he's going to that city. He would drive there, and every time he would come, he would miss him. Then he got some inside information, and he found out what is the next stop. So he says, this time I'm going to go fast, and sure enough, he came there a few days before the visit. He says, this time I'm not missing him. So he found out where exactly he's going to be sleeping, and moments before he came, the Baal Tanya, he snuck into the room and he hid under the bed. And he's like, the second that he walks in, I'm going to jump out, and that way I don't miss him. So he's lying under the bed, and he hears already the carriage is coming, the horses, the commotion, and he's like, okay, I'm about to meet him. This is very exciting. And then he's stunned, and he's like, wait a minute, what am I going to ask him? This is going to be like a moment, and I have a moment to throw a question. What am I going to say? It's I'm meeting him. So he says, I have a question in halacha, in a tractate that is called Erchin. Erchin is the value. There is a tractate that is talking about how can you value a person, a human being. Because there are slaves. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound so nice, but the value of a woman, the value of a man, there's different values. Yeah, each person, even today, today they value individual. This person is worth $1 million. This person is worth $4 million. They have a list of the richest people in the world. What are they worth? Of course, this is coming from a side of an ego. But this tractate is dealing with the value of a person. Now, how can you really value a human being? So he said, you know what? I'm going to ask him that. I'm going to ask him something that has to do with this tractate. And the Baal HaTanya walks into the room. The person is about, Hillel is about to jump out of the bed. And the Baal HaTanya says out loud, when a young individual has a question in the tractate of Erchin, first he has to value himself. He faints. He says, wow, this is true Ruach HaKodesh. He had Ruach HaKodesh. He knew I'm under the bed. He knew I'm young. And he knew my question. And he fainted. And of course, by the time he woke up, they took him out of the bed. He woke up. And of course, the Baal HaTanya already left. And he never met him. He understood that he cannot meet him. He became one of his Hasidim. And he never ever met him. Later on, he became a Chassid of his child, of his son. And later on, the Tzemach Tzedek. But Hillel from Parich is a very big name in the Hasidic world. Never met his Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya. Now, the point to take from that, because what did he say? He says that when you have a question in what's the value of a person, first value yourself. Start valuing yourself. Now, valuing is not really the right term in English. In Hebrew, you would say la'arich et atzmecha, but with an ayin. Let's see what's my value right now. Where am I holding? I need to bring myself sometimes to a place that I have to see where am I holding right now. Am I doing exactly what I'm supposed to do? And what's the level that I'm holding right now? And in a situation even, was I doing the right thing here? And in a certain act that I do, I have to look at myself and be very judgmental on myself. And say, was I right or not? Am I doing good or not? It's very easy to say, yeah, I'm doing great. Maybe not. Maybe I have some place for improvement. When somebody will come and tell me when I'm doing something bad, right away my ego will be like, whoa, you're not doing so great yourself. It's very easy, very hard to get rebuke from somebody or to get somebody's opinion. You didn't do this, you did that. Our ego system right away will kick in and, whoa, why are you attacking me? But really what we want to take from that is that I have to constantly evaluate myself. Comes a situation, I have to look at myself and say, was I right here when I was saying this and that? Did I act the right way? Maybe I owe that person an apology. Maybe I'm not acting right. Now, of course, I'm talking about the situations become negative, not when they become positive. Obviously, if it's positive, the outcome is positive, there's no argument here. Talking right now, there's a negative outcome. I have to look at myself and say, am I acting the right way? Am I acting according to the opinion of the Torah? Was I right here? Maybe I'm the wrong one. Maybe I have to be the one who steps forward and says, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I didn't do something right. Now, the problem is that in most cases, we are very harsh, especially on the other side. On myself, I'm not harsh. Sometimes, yes. Some people, they have that character that they're very harsh on themselves. But when it comes to the other side, I'm very harsh on the other side. No place for leniency. The thing is that I have to constantly evaluate myself in every situation. I have to look at myself and analyze it. And I have to, let's say for example, I scream right now. I come home and my child does something. Or my wife, this is a common thing. And you scream. Well, you don't have wives, Baruch Hashem. At least I hope. But I have to be very diplomatic here. We have a lot of viewers that are men, so they have wives, I hope. So, or wish. But nevertheless, a situation that this is a common thing. A person will come and something will trigger them and they'll scream. Start screaming at another person. Where did this scream come from? Did the scream came from my ego, from me, or from concern? Now I can now get upset at my child and I'll raise my voice, or punish, or I'll do a certain act. I have to right away evaluate, where is this coming from? Is it coming because I'm concerned and I want to educate the child? that will be positive, or if it's coming because of my ego, because my ego was hurt. And I have to constantly look at any situation, where is the reaction coming from? That's this evaluation of myself. When I value myself, I have to see if the problem is in me or in somewhere else. And the way to do it is to really observe in the reaction. And then I can say where this is reaction coming from. Now, if I can pinpoint it, that it's coming from concern, good. Then sometimes you need a harsh reaction. Sometimes you need it. You want to educate your child, you want to make sure that something is done the right way. Sometimes it requires a harsh action, but if it's coming for something good, it's coming to help, it's coming from concern. But if it's coming from my ego and I really observe myself, I evaluate myself, say, what am I kidding? It's my ego. I got upset. Then I know it's coming from the wrong place. That's what it means when I have to really evaluate myself. And I need to know my reactions, where they're coming from. And it can come from both directions. You know, when we pray the prayer of Shmona Esrei, Tfilat Shmona Esrei, the standing prayer in Shacharit, Mincha, and Arvit, we start by saying, Hakel HaGadol HaGibor VaHanora, the great and huge and almighty Gadol VeNora. This can be interpreted as, wait a minute, Hashem is very powerful, and if he wants to punish, he knows how to punish. If he needs to destroy the world, he'll put the world underwater. This is a Kel HaGadol, great, a Gibor VaHanora. Nora can be, something very mighty. But right in the same sentence, what do we say? Gomel Chesed. Right away, וגומל חסדים טובים. הקל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, קל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים. On one hand is a almighty, and if he needs to put his foot down, Hashem already proved that he knows how to put the foot down, now to take care of business. But the sentence ends by וגומל חסדים טובים. He does a lot of kindness. And everything that he does is with kindness and good. So we see that even Hashem knows when to be firm and when to be not firm, when to be kind. So I have to, in every situation that I do, in every situation that I am, every action that I do, I have to make an evaluation. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from anger? It's coming from ego? It's coming from proving the point? Or it's coming from concern? Or that I want to educate and better the situation? The Rambam says about Hashem that he doesn't have a nature, so to say. Doesn't have a nature or a character. That's what Rambam says about Hashem. But Hashem knows how to, the word in Hebrew that he uses, bochen. Bochen is like to judge. Hashem doesn't have a character. Like what is Yaakov telling Shimon and Levi? You have a character. You have a bad character. You like spilling blood. This we cannot say on Hashem. Hashem doesn't have a character or habits. Hashem observes the situation, he analyzes the situation, he judges it the right way, and decide if the reaction will be harsh or not. And that's what I want to take. Hold on with the questions, if you don't, I'll finish in a second. This is what Yaakov is telling Shimon and Levi. This is exactly what they were telling them. The killing, it came from you. Don't pretend it came from the halacha that you said no, they're obligated in the laws of Noah, they didn't establish a court, they stole no, it's not. You're not fighting here for halacha. You're not such. Don't pretend that you're going based on the halacha. It came from you. That's why I'm angry at you. Because if you really cared about the Torah, you would do what the Torah says and not by what the halacha. But what you want to say. Exactly like we were talking about before. We talked about before how sometimes in situations a certain individual will act in a certain way. What we talked about before, and when I was going out, what you were telling me. Sometimes people, they behave in a certain way and it's only coming from their ego. It's not coming from anywhere else. It's only their ego. But they're leaning on the halacha. Oh no, we're doing, it's the opinion of the Torah here. I'm fighting for the Torah. No, you're not. It's coming from your ego. And that's what Shimon and Levi were saying. No. Father, we know the Torah. We're fighting for in the name of the Torah. We're following the halacha here. They deserve to die. And Yaakov is saying, who are you kidding? You're not doing anything. It's your ego. It's coming only from your pride. Because you have a problem. So admit that you have a problem and don't pretend that it's a halacha, that you're so pious. Just admit you have a problem. You like seeing blood being shed. So in many other situations that we see in front of our eyes, it has nothing to do with halacha. It has nothing to do with the Torah. This is the fakeness, and people say, no, I'm leaning on the Torah. Many people in many situations, when they start an argument or a fight, and will people tell them, why are you causing a fight? I'm fighting in the name of the Torah. I have to bring justice in the name of the Torah. This is the halakha. The other individual is doing something against the Torah. Unfortunately, we don't have a Yaakov to say, who are you kidding? It's your ego. It's your arrogance. Don't say that you're doing it in the name of the Torah. And this is exactly what Yaakov was telling them. In the beginning, I believed you when you said we did it in the name of the Torah. But now that I found out that you did the same thing to Yosef, sorry to tell you, Chevre, this is a pattern. You have a problem, and you better take care of it. I will give you a blessing, but I'm also going to tell you where's your weakness. And we need to know how to evaluate ourselves and to know if it's coming from the truth or not. And if it's not, then I have a problem. And I have to admit it. And I have to apply it. And I have to change it. And I have to refine my character trait that is negative. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're all created not perfect, by the way. If I think for whatever reason I'm perfect and everybody else is at fault, that is in itself an imperfection. There's nothing that is created perfect. You know, the Rabbi Eliezer ben Orkonos, he has a book that it says Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. He explains there that when Hashem created the world, He created the world in four corners, north, south, east, and west. But the northern part, the northern corner, He didn't finish. The world is not finished. It's like a puzzle that you have, a 1,000-piece puzzle. You have 99 pieces there, one piece is in the corner, it's not finished. It's not a complete job. So Hashem didn't finish the world. Why? So if somebody will come and say, I'm a God, then God will tell him, okay, so let's see you finishing the world. Because many people came in the history that said, I'm a God. Mm-hmm. You know, tonight, half the world is commemorating somebody who thought he's a God. So Hashem is, the answer of Hashem is, oh yeah, you are a God, so finish the world. Finish my creation. So same thing here, some people think that they're the peak of perfection. Hashem says, no. We're all created with some things that are not perfect, so you can fix it. So you can correct it. So Yaakov got upset at them not because of the reaction, because where the reaction came from. The reaction is one thing. Yaakov cared about where it came from. And he told them, I'm leaving you right now. I want to give you a Yerusha, inheritance. So I'm telling you your fault. Don't let your ego affect you and be offended. I'm not offending you. I'm telling you what to work on. And this is what we want to take from this parasha, that we're not perfect. We're far from perfect. And we have problems. And if somebody comes and tells me, listen, you have this issue, don't jump right away out of your body and attack. Okay, I have an issue. Everybody has issue. I have an issue with this, you have an issue with that, and I need to refine myself. And I have to constantly put myself under the magnifying glass to see where are my reactions coming from. And I have to be very humble, and I have to be only searching for the truth to know that it's for my own benefit. It's like a person that is addicted to drugs or alcohol, and people coming and telling him, you are addicted. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Deal with it. Take care of it. We're not trying to attack you. We're trying to help you. And the ones who want to help themselves, then they were able to do it because they realized, yeah, I have a problem. Now I'm giving an example just with drugs and alcohol, but we all have all these little problems, little addictions, little issues. that I need to acknowledge them, and it's not about putting myself down. It's not about that I'm losing status. I have to see where it's coming from so I know how to fix it. That's it. And when I'm able to reach to that level, why did Yaakov did not tell them the time when Mashiach is coming? There's many explanations. One of the reasons, because he didn't want them to feel that they reached perfection. No, you're still in exile. You still have to work on yourself. And this is what you have to work on. This is what I want to take from this parasha, that I have to really constantly put myself under a magnifying glass. Any reaction that comes out of my mouth, every word, every action, I have to take a short break and say, okay, where did this come from? The screaming, the rebuking, the whatever it is, my reaction, did it come from my ego, from my place where I got hurt, or it came with a good intention to actually help and coming from concern? If I'm able to refine myself in that such a way, I will reach to my own level of redemption. If each and every one of us will just apply that just a little bit, just imagine how better the world would look. How much more peace would be, and how much less arguments we would have if people will take once a day the time to look and say, you know what? Who am I kidding? My ego got hurt. I got offended. I got stepped on. I'm jealous. I feel like I'm a failure, a loser, so I have to throw my frustration on somebody else. If each and every one of us does this own way of thinking, then the only one who will benefit from it the most is only you. Because your life will be much more smoother, less confrontations, less arguments, much more happier, and needless to say, how that will make the world so much of a better place that will convince the Kadosh Baruch Hu, okay, we can stand each other a little bit. Send us Mashiach, please.